All right. Hello, 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 hello. I gotta put my fingers in front because of the blur. Hey, so today we're gonna talk about social contract, belonging, community care. Just dabble a bit. And it's based on a response from another video that I saw by Stephanie Perry. She interviewed Tony Jones, and the interview is all about community care as opposed to self-care. So that's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Nneka Kelly, and I am your Trini-born sage and oracle. I am here to help you craft a life you love, and I will be sharing how I am crafting a life that I love. So I wanted to talk about this because I am back from Trinidad, as you can tell from the background. I'm back in my at in my home, and I was really looking forward to having this time without my parents. They are there. They're doing very, very well. They're very happy. They're having a whale of a time. My dad, who has Alzheimer's, I may have said this before, but I feel like I need to say it in every video because not everybody reads everything. By the way, make sure that you subscribe and you like this video before you leave. So yeah, so I wanted to chat about this because of the experience that I had while I was in Trinidad with a lot of family. I am an introvert. On the Myers-Briggs scale, I'm probably like half and half. I've taken that test many, many times, and I am either like 1 point extrovert, 1 point introvert, depending on where I am in my life. And I feel like right now, if I were to take it, I'll probably be like 3 points in the introvert side because I really, really enjoy um, having a lot of time to myself. I like introspection. It's nourishing to me to have time and space alone. I was really looking forward. Originally, my parents actually were supposed to come back on Friday, this past Friday. And then it got extended to the 21st. And then my uncle got generous and he said that they could stay at his house for 2 more weeks. So my parents are going to be there after Carnival, which was my mom's wish from the beginning. So she's living La Vida Loca there. Living La Vida Loca. So they're going to be there, until March, which means that I have the house to myself and I am loving it. I'm living La Vida Loca here. But with all this love of solitude, it occurred to me when I was in Trinidad where life is the opposite of solitude. I don't know how introverts live in Trinidad really, because there are people around you time all the time, even if you want to. I don't know. I think they go to Tobago. Really, I think they just go to Tobago and hang out there. There's actually a calypso about that from Shadow, called Baseman. He said he wanted to go and plant peas in Tobago, and that's how I feel right now. I feel like if I move there, I may have to go live in Tobago because I really value and enjoy being alone. But but here's what was surprising to me with this trip to Trinidad. They have this thing. I call my uncles. I'm like, y'all are just the pass-through posse. They are constantly passing through people's houses all the time. And growing up, I grew up in my grandmother's house. They had a sliding door at the front of the house. Literally, the door was literally always open. And a friend of mine asked me, well, what did you guys do about food? And they always cooked extra food in case somebody was coming because somebody was always coming. And so they always had the door open and people would just pass through all the time, like all day long, all day, every day. Nice, but kind of not because, again, introvert. So when I went down to Trinidad, part of what I was dreading was the pass through, like people being there all the time and people hanging out at our place all the time and us having to go visit everybody. And just like it's exhausting to have to do a trip like that. The thought of it was just like, oh God, please no. But when I got there, something interesting happened. The first day, the first full day we were there was Sunday, and I really just wanted to relax and recharge. I didn't want to see anybody, but my uncles and aunts came over, and I was just like, "Oh God, it's begun." Um, on Monday was the hospital with my aunt, got to see her. But on Tuesday, something very interesting happened. Tuesday, we went to take care of some personal business with my dad. Now, because my dad has Alzheimer's, I am his power of attorney. We did that when he was like years ago, when he first started showing signs of Alzheimer's. So thankfully, I had the presence of mind to do it with that. And I thank my cousin for that too. But Tuesday, we had to do this transaction to get like something with his life insurance policy. And they live here, and like they live in the US. They don't have a presence in Trinidad really. And in order to do the transaction was just very complicated because they live in the US, they don't have a presence in Trinidad. It was a Trinidad policy. They wouldn't relinquish the money to a US bank. It had to be to a Trinidadian bank, which meant that I had to have a bank account to put the money in. And if I had to do that in the US, we did that. I opened a bank account. The thing with my mom happened. There was uh, there was a lot of what would have been in the US, a lot of stress, a lot of stress. And any one of those things would have taken me out for weeks, really. But down there, I was so well supported and surrounded by people, ironically, that it got me to thinking or rethinking my whole stance on my introversion and being so independent and having to do everything for myself. I think there's in Trinidad a social contract, and other people talk about this who are from other places, anywhere else actually outside of the US. They talk about it from Mexico, from China, from India, from Ghana, Nigeria, everybody, even Western Europe, even like Greece or but when I saw my big fat Greek wedding, think about that. I was like, oh, these people are like me. Like this is how my life is. They're just all in your business all the time. Like you don't have a spare moment. So any one of those activities, the hospital with my mom, the banking, the thing with my dad, any one of those things would have taken me out because it was just a lot of heavy lifting and me having to do it by myself. But on Tuesday, when we were at the insurance place, my aunt was there with me with one of my cousin's kids, my nephews. They're just all nieces and nephews now because second cousins just sound so awkward, and I'm an auntie. Anyway, it was really interesting to navigate that process with people around me all the time. I felt like my aunt, we were just chatting, not about anything in particular. I can't even remember what kind of conversations we had, but it was just really, really good to, it was kind of like distracting chatter, maybe was what we were doing. It it was just so good to have her present there with me, just to have her present. And like I said, we weren't really talking about anything in particular. I can't remember what the conversation was about. I She wasn't helping me with the transactions per se. She was there just in case. But she wasn't really helping me with the transactions. Like I still needed to talk to the clerk about all the different nuances. She went back about 10 times to ask questions about this transaction, maybe 20. Um, but it was helpful and relaxing and nourishing to have people around me. And then the other thing that I realized in Trinidad was social capital is extremely important. And in the US, I don't have social capital. Not nearly. I probably have 1% of the social capital that I have in Trinidad. By social capital, I mean My family is very well connected. Um, to higher parts, yes, but more to getting things moving along. To open the bank account, so when you open a bank account in Trinidad, you have to have an appointment. The appointments are usually scheduled for in advance. I'm a Trinidadian citizen, but I did not bring any of my Trinidadian papers. My Trinidad passport was expired. And so I was a US national opening a bank account in Trinidad, which would have been even more complicated. My aunt was the manager at the bank. Well, there are a few bankers in my family, and at the three major banks in Trinidad. And so we kind of had them covered. But my aunt took me to the bank where she was the manager before, and the person who's the manager now worked with her before. It just, not to get anybody in any kind of trouble, it just, she stated what was happening. And it was just easier for me to get an appointment because she knew the person and we went straight to the source. Um, In the US, I had to, last year when I sold my parents' house, we had an issue with the banking then too, because the house was in both my parents' name, but they didn't have an account that was in both their names. And to open an account, my dad had to be like in the power of attorney, somewhere in there, the clause about opening bank accounts, it's murky. So they wouldn't accept it. They would only accept me as a power of attorney in it. So to get my dad to do that transaction was just very difficult. Like comparatively, last year doing a banking transaction with my parents was very, very heavy lifting for me. And this year, with my family around, doing it in a foreign country, foreign to me because I no longer live there. I've never lived in Trinidad as an adult. Um, it was just so much easier. Now, I want to say, when I say easier, I mean easeful, smoother. I don't mean that there I don't mean that there were less moving parts, because there were a lot of moving parts, but it just felt like I felt held throughout the process. I didn't feel like I was alone. I didn't feel like if I made a mistake, it would be disastrous or fatalistic for us, which I often feel like when I'm here. I feel in Trinidad like I could make mistakes and I would recover from them easily. Because there's so much of a safety net. There's so many people there. And that was very, very surprising to me being there. That I think is when people talk about community care, and when people talk about community care, I think this is what they mean. When people talk about having community, I think this is what they mean. When I moved to Charlotte and I said I want to put down roots, that's what I meant by that. But what I realized is that the roots that I have in Trinidad, I cannot, those roots are generations in the making. I like generations in the making. It's actually, even the house that my uncle lives in right now, one of the houses is a house that my grandfather's sister inherited from someone else and then sold to him. That's the level of connectivity and just like enmeshing that there is. When I say generations, I don't mean like my dad or even my grandparents. I mean like my grandparents' parents and their parents. The roots are deep, deep, deep there. And for me to move to a place, be it Miami, New York, I've lived in Miami, I've lived in New York, I've lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Kentucky, in Charlotte, in Orlando, in any of these places, trying to build community from nothing or even from a few people, it's almost impossible. Nothing is impossible, but it is very, 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 very difficult. And I don't think I would ever have the depth of true community and true connectivity really outside of what I have there. I don't like my parents came here and their generation of folks came here. My cousins came here and we have a generation of people that are here. I think it takes generations to to create that kind of structure, of care, um of belonging. You just feel like you're in there. And I never feel like I'm there here. I've been a member of some beautiful communities here in the US, church communities in Miami and in Raleigh. I've been parts of coaching communities. I've had been to conferences. I've had spiritual communities. Um, but none of them have even scratched the surface of the depth of belonging that I feel when I am in Trinidad, which of course is interesting to me because I never thought, I keep saying this, I never thought that I would live there, but I see the benefits of me being there now. I cannot reconstruct that. And I'm not just talking about the generations of just my family, but my family and their friends. So also like my aunt by marriage. She has her friends, she has her family. They are an extension of mine there. It's like it I don't know how to describe it. It just it's difficult to reproduce. It's difficult to describe. I think also what happens in the US when we start to put names on things, when we start to label things, we somehow think that we have a handle on it, right? When we start talking about community care versus self care, now we think we have a handle on what community really means. But the only place probably where I saw that community in action was probably in the mountains of Kentucky, but it wasn't my communities where I witnessed other people in community at that level. It was in the mountains of community, and there people live intergenerationally. They live it's again generations, and people have friends, and the friends become family, and then like there's like this expansive network of people that is not only wide, but it is very, very deep. That's the level of community that I'm talking about. And I don't know that by us just giving it a label or calling it something that we're really getting the essence or even like the breadth of what it is. That's what I want to say. It was very, very surprising to me to experience that in Trinidad. So now, one of the things that I had on my list next week, I am going to actually do a retirement update. But one of the things that I had on my list for retirement, um, because I want to retire healthy, not just financially, but physically healthy and socially, emotionally well healthy as well, right? So one of the things for social health was to start to make friends in Charlotte, to start to put down roots in Charlotte. I've been here for a year now. Yeah, actually, almost a year to the date, because today is the 3rd of February. So last year, the 3rd of February, I was probably like driving here, or moving into this house. Um, and I have to say that it's been challenging to make friends here, to find people that I connect with. Now, it's not the people's fault. I'm not going to blame Charlotte people. I'm a very insular person. I have been very focused on my parents' care. I've been very much at home. I don't go out very much. And also there's also an intersection of values, like what do we have in common? I found that with the Exodus Summit group. They actually had a meetup this past Saturday. I did not go. I'm finding that just the idea that we can live differently. Those are the folks that I like to talk to. And so now I'm now trying to find those people here in Charlotte feels very, very, very upstream. And so, especially when I walked into something in Trinidad and I just felt like I felt immediately held. I didn't feel like I had to reconstruct anything, which is making me think about what social health will mean to me in the future. Does it mean that I try to put down roots here, or does it mean that I reconnect with my roots in Trinidad and use that as my home base, and then um, take the time for solitude, take the time for me to be apart and for me to recharge and not even recharge, for me to take retreats for myself so that I can have that part that I need, that community care that I definitely need and will need when I retire. I'm talking like 20 years from now. You know, my parents may not be around, may not be my aunts and uncle, but my cousins are there. And we do have that network there. And I have a network there too. So what I'm thinking right now is probably I will continue to get out and meet people within the Exodus community who are here, meet people within the FI community, that's financial independence community, who are here, meet people who are interested in retirement, meet people who are interested maybe in crocheting, in writing, my hobbies, but really begin to reconnect with my roots in Trinidad as well. I guess that's where I wanted to go. So few things. Again, let me know what your thoughts are about community care. What does that look like for you in retirement, or let's say 10 years from now? What would community look like for you? Or do you feel like you have a strong network and a strong community right now? And how did you build it? I'm really, really curious about that. So, hi, my name is Nneka, and I am your Trinity born sage and oracle. I'm here to help you craft a life that you love, and part of that is community care. If you've watched this all the way through, please like and subscribe. And next week, I'm going to be talking about my retirement update. How's this life crafting going? I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.